In this video, we're going to go over 5 strategies that pros are using right now in VCT and talk about how you can incorporate them in your games to start to dominate and pop off game after game. Now, the first one is insane. As you see, Sentinels versus EDG, they are going to all sit inside of their smoke in the corner. You might be wondering why they are doing this, but it's actually incredibly powerful and used multiple times in other games as well. So this is going to allow you to dodge any potential dart or eye, and in addition to that, you are going to be able to not get flashed if enemies use flashes on a site. This means that the second utility dumps come in and enemies expect this corner to be clear because you didn't register on any of their info utility, you're going to be able to pop out and potentially get a kill. This is a super strong strategy to completely outplay enemies in your ranked games because they're going to dump utility, try to get information, expect it to be clear, and you're going to get a kill on someone that's not even looking at you. And actually on Lotus, in the Sentinels versus Fnatic game, we saw Tens do this by throwing a smoke and teleporting inside of it when they're taking control of A main, because on defense you fight for A main a lot, and being able to do something like that allows you to potentially stay there whether you get flashed or darted or eyed, and you're going to be able to hold a position without enemies knowing, and that's just so damn powerful. Now, that being said, one of the things that we've seen throughout the entire tournament is incredible aim. These pro players can just click head after head, and while it definitely isn't easy to develop aim like that, there are certain shortcuts that you can use to get great aim much faster, and we go over all of that in our SkillCapped Aim God course. To how to properly peek, jiggle, or hold angles, we go over everything you could need to become a god tier aimer as quickly as possible, and if you don't climb, you don't pay, so what are you waiting for? Check it out right now in the links down below. The next thing that we do gotta talk about is the wall bang ability of a lot of things on Lotus, most namely the tree room on Lotus, where you can wall bang it if you have high pen, and we saw this a lot with Odin. We've been seeing this for quite some time, where people will hold this defensively on Odin and try to take aggressive control of A main, which is something that you really shouldn't give up so easily in ranked play as well. And the reason for this is because as long as you know that they are not in A main, then it's impossible for them to take and execute onto site without crossing a lot of ground. So if you can keep them away from A main, then you can deduce that they are going to commit to another site, and that's super powerful to be able to do that with an Odin. And we see this a lot, and I would suggest you do it as well. But what we saw right here was Tens abuse it to the next level with a Guardian. A perfect lineup spot into a headshot onto Boaster, won them a pivotal round in this elimination tournament, sending Fnatic home. And that's freaking crazy to wall bang headshot someone blind right off the bat, killing someone at the very start of the game and leaving Fnatic with no smokes. This is incredibly powerful, and the only reason that you could do this is because Guardian has high pen, and it is so freaking strong to do. I would definitely suggest you mess around with the areas on Lotus, because really, well, Ascent is often joked about being freaking paper thin. Lotus is the true paper thin map, and there are so many wall bangable spots, and in many places you can abuse weapons like the Odin and the Guardian. Now, we're going to talk about 2 other really dominant strats that you could incorporate in your games, but let's talk about one that is a little controversial. Now, in a match between Leviathan and G2, G2 decided to all jump off the map when they were rocking pistols to deny the enemy money for the kills and ult points for any of the kills they would get as well. Now, with a map allowing you to kill yourself for the first time, this definitely had a lot of controversy, with people not understanding why they did it and other people arguing whether or not it was a good or bad thing. So let's break down exactly why. Now, some people could argue that 9 and 4 giving the opponents a free round if it was closer, then this would be a more solid play. But with it not being as close, you need to go for a little bit higher risk. Go for the pistol round even though you're at a disadvantage. But really, even if this game was closer, let's say it was 4-4 in a similar thing, I think it's an incredibly bad idea to actually do this. Even though you're denying the enemy a lot of different things, let's consider a couple of factors. Number one, look at the opponent's buys. They don't all have great weaponry, and a huge layer that as well is the fact that what if you just managed to kill the Jet, steal the Vandal, and then won the round? There's a lot of RNG in these rounds, and there's a lot of possibility to turn a round that you have a disadvantage in into a 1 round. Like on paper, it makes sense that you want to deny the enemy all these things if you were guaranteed to lose, but that's just not even the case. Even if the opponent was all buying rifles with full armor, that is not the case. It's incredibly easy for 3 people to be lurking together, catch someone off guard, kill them, take their gun, and then all of a sudden snowball from there. But in this scenario, the enemy didn't even full buy, and there's a lot of them that are saving, and then a lot of them don't have amazing weaponry. So it was a very clutchable round. And when you're down 9-4, you really need to play for a little bit of higher risk here, because you need to try to leverage this back into a win. I mean, you're losing. You can't stay at parity. And imagine if they win this pistol round, have a great eco boost, leverage that into another round win, and then they're back in this game. It could have been a completely different series. And I think that this is a little bit cheeky, a little bit fun, but not reasonable for you to do in your ranked games. Now, the player that's on the tip of everyone's tongue right now is definitely Primy. Everyone is talking about how good he is mechanically, and he does something very unique with a lot of his peaks that other players don't do to the same extent, and it's a tiny crouch bobble every single angle he challenges. If he's going to challenge an angle, he's going to do a slight bobble peek against that angle, and he doesn't do a full commit to the crouch. He does just a little tiny bobble and a potential shot or a pre-fire, and then moves on to the next angle. Now, he has a certain rhythm to it that allows him to do it very quickly, and he's very efficient with it, but many people don't really understand why he's doing this. And it mainly comes down to just slightly changing his head height without messing up his movement or his accuracy. He's not ruining his first shot accuracy. He's not messing up the flow of his movement very much, because you're still stopping to clear any angles anyways, and you're just adding a half crouch into that. But if an enemy is there and they are perfect head height and shoot, then they might miss by doing this slight bobble. So it's actually even better against amazing players. But the question is, should you be doing this in your ranked games? And it's going to come down to a couple of things. Number 1, how developed is your aim currently? And number 2, what rank are you in? If your aim is not really that developed already, you're already making a lot of mistakes, you're not clearing angles, and you're not even shooting straight the majority of the time, then adding an extra layer to difficulty around movement and shooting is definitely not what you want to do, especially when we consider the rank that you're in, because most people are not going to be aiming perfect head height anyways. But if you already have great aim, you've already developed it, and you're already playing at high elo, then you could definitely experiment with the Primy peak. But keep in mind, this is just one great aimer that is incorporating this a lot. There are a lot of pros that don't do this at all, but I can definitely see its benefits in certain situations. And if you're incredibly precise, then this can be the thing that gives you the leg up in a matchup against another great aimer. But the last thing that we got to talk about in this video is the Deadlock Cypher combo. And this is so freaking powerful. We're seeing it a ton on maps like Ascent, on maps like Abyss. And the thing about this is that you can put a trip and a Deadlock sound sensor, and if they shoot the trip, you trigger the sound sensor, and it pretty much hard locks down a site. Like, there's nothing harder to push through than a Cypher Deadlock duo. And we're seeing this a lot on Ascent on B, where Deadlock and Cypher can basically lock down B and mid together really hard, and you could allow your other 3 players to hard stack tree and A. And this really creates an asymmetry where it's really hard for enemies to push. They have to go freaking through Fort Knox with Deadlock Cypher, or they get to push into more players on the other side of the map. Now, the retake of this can be a little bit difficult, but because you have 3 people, you can actually make a lot of proactive plays on the other side of the map, and it's definitely easy for you to stall with smokes and things like that, because your controller will be there. So this is a really powerful composition, and I think a lot of people in ranked aren't willing to lock double Sentinel. But if you want to do this with the duo, I think it could be incredibly powerful, because opponents are not going to be as disciplined as pro players. Like, this is shutting down pro players, but against your average ranked player, they're going to fall into this over and over and over again. They're going to just constantly be trapped, constantly be frustrated. You're going to get a lot of free kills. Deadlock and Cypher play really well together and off each other. I definitely would suggest you trying it out a game or 2, and if it's doing well in pro play, I think it's going to do even better in your ranked games. But every one of these tips isn't going to matter if you don't have the aim to back it up, so definitely check out SkillCapped right here. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.